Well, welcome to today's Stay Connected webinar. We're really glad you are able to join us. We appreciate your time and your interest in this topic. We know many of your after school and summer program attendees are interested in sports clubs. And so we have an expert on this topic today, Graeme Eaglesham, and we're going to let Graeme talk about the work that he is doing across the state. And we're very excited to learn more about future kids. So thanks, Graeme, for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kim. Thanks for having me. Super excited to talk about future kids and kind of youth engagement and physical activity and all that good stuff and what we're doing. So yeah, I'll just get into it, and I've got my screen to share as well for you guys. But yeah, essentially, Future Kids, we are an after school sports program. We basically do a lot of soccer, tennis, PE, physical education type classes, and esports. But I've got a little sort of presentation I'll pop on here, and then let's see. Hopefully you guys can see my screen there. You see that okay? Awesome. Yeah, so just straight into, Future Kids, we're actually, which is crazy to me, we're now Nebraska's largest after school sports program. Again, like I mentioned, we do a lot of soccer, tennis, physical education classes, esports. I probably need to update these numbers a little bit. I think it's closer to 70 schools we're in across the state, and we serve about 1,000 youth across Nebraska every week. But we did start back in Omaha. We started in Omaha in 2017. Our first ever program was a soccer program at Central Park Elementary, and the problem that we initially tried to solve with what I felt in youth sports and youth engagement was the cost of youth sports, especially soccer. And in Omaha specifically, it would cost thousands of dollars to go and join, a good quality soccer program. So we felt that there's a lot of underserved communities that, their families just don't have that money to pay for that service. So, Future Kids came around and we tried to take the good quality sports coaches to, the youth in some of the underserved areas in Omaha. And, that's what we did. And we added more sports. We then expanded into sort of rural communities where we felt maybe some rural communities had, a slightly different problem, that being, maybe they just didn't have the, access to as many quality sports coaches just because of, their geographical location as opposed to an economic problem. So that was the next problem that we felt we could try and solve. And, within Future Kids, we're lucky that we have, a network of coaches that are either, professional sports coaches, college athletes, former college athletes. And, with that, we try and create an experience that keeps the kids engaged with it within the sport. And, a huge part of that is, physical activity and getting the kids moving. And I'll dive more into it in the presentation, but, I have values there on the screen. That's just, we don't want to just be a sports program where we roll the soccer ball out and they just go and kick it around for an hour. We try and kind of instill values and, meaning to the why behind what we're doing, and, just I'll fly through a lot of this, but that's just some of the benefits and values of having sports and using sports as a vehicle to engage youth. It increases cognitive skills, academic achievement, increased test scores, attitudes, and just behavior in general. Those are all just general benefits of being involved in some sort of sport. Just to see the activity increase there and brain activity when people are moving around. So naturally, when kids are being active, they're going to move more. And your Future Kids, the whole point of it is we want the kids to be enjoying it and enjoying sports so they continue to do it, especially on their own as well. So yeah, and then I guess there's just more impact there on exercise throughout youth and keeping them engaged in that. Just again increased motivation to do it more, and they're ready to learn and maintain information easier. We've had countless sort of feedback from teachers at the school. Sometimes they'll say that we have a lot of morning classes, for example, at our school programs where, we get the energy out of the kids and we calm them down a little bit, and then they're able to retain more in their lessons during the day. After some of our breakfast clubs, we've had great examples of that over time. And I'll touch on it a little bit later, but even increased behavior has helped a lot. There's a lot of teachers and site directors where they'll use Future Kids as a club to encourage the kids to behave throughout the day, or they won't be able to take part in Future Kids in the afternoon. That's helped with engagement and overall behavior as well, when again it always ties back to we want the kids to be enjoying their time with us in the Future Kids program, so that we can get all of these sort of additional benefits. And just trying to create habits throughout the lifespan is what we're looking to do. Really, when a lot of our coaches are current college athletes, and they have sports as part of their lifestyle, and when the youth have adults like that to look up to, and they're working with them once or twice a week, we feel that is going to increase the likelihood that it'll create a habit for the child to maintain sports or just general physical activity throughout their adult life as well. We all know the kind of values of exercise there. I won't read through the screen there, but again, that's just when a child is involved in sports for a number of years, they are way more likely to be physically active when they're an adult. It's just that's just the laws of the game, really. So we're trying to get as many kids involved as much as possible with, again, not just rolling the ball out, but this is a proper sports program. This is how you act as a participant in sports. This is what it's like to be a team member, and all that will kind of come back around when we go into the values here in a little minute. We know childhood obesity and the problems we have with that. So the more active we can get the kids, the better. We've already touched on that. And there's the self-esteem benefits. I absolutely love it when Future Kids, we are not trying to create the next sports stars of the world. If it happens, great. We're looking to maybe have some kids that didn't think they could afford sports before. We have kids that maybe there just wasn't a program in town because they stay out in the middle of Nebraska somewhere. But when we can introduce that option to them, it creates so much self-esteem in the kids. When they're improving, they're making friends, they've got a coach that shows them, hey, you can do this, even though you're just learning, you're just starting out. Maybe it's the first time you've kicked a soccer ball, and they see that enjoyment, that the self-esteem kids get from that. It's really, it's incredible to see sometimes. So I really like that one, and again, that's kind of the kind of meaning behind Future Kids right there. It's just, regardless of the zip code or ability, we think they should all have access to a quality sports program, and those positive role models that are coaches. Let me see here. Does that let me skip through to the next slide? Yep, there we go. Yeah, and again, touching on those benefits again that we already spoke about. And again, we'll go into our values now, and we just feel that now more than ever, I think our youth need a bit of guidance, and just touching back on what it is to be a good person, and a lot of time they do have a lot of screen time. Parents have a lot going on. Values in society are changing a little bit, so I think Future Kids comes in pretty well to teach a lot of our values, and not just rolling the ball out to do the sports, but have our coaches intentionally instill these lessons and values every time they have a touch point with the child at the program. And we'll go into a lot of our values here in a second. And that's our kind of our values there with Future Kids. It's respect, responsibility, teamwork, sportsmanship, leadership, and determination. And we take these values from the NAIA Championships of Champions of Character. That is sort of one of the governing bodies of collegiate sports. So a lot of our athletes are familiar with these values, and they sort of live by them in their own personal lives as well, not just, professional coaching life. I'm just I'll go through each one of them, not to give you the definition, but I'll just give more of how we relate it to sports and how we use it to sort of engage the child. In respect, we're always having our please and thank yous. And especially, if a coach is coaching a program, we try and have the kids not bounce the ball and stuff on the floor or the grass when the coach is talking, and listen to the instructions. That would be sort of the first main respect piece. Then you've got responsibility, and for a child, that type of thing could be, you're responsible for making your own bed in the morning and brushing your teeth every day. And the sporting example, that would be, hey, we show up to practice on time, we have everything prepared, whether that be our soccer ball or water bottle. The next there would be sort of teamwork, working together with the friends on a classroom project would be relatable to the child. And through sports, if it's soccer, they don't just dribble the soccer ball by themselves every time. They have to pass it to a teammate to then go on and score a goal. And sportsmanship, you got that there. Just congratulating a classmate for winning the spelling bee or science fair would be, a general classroom example of that. And if a player falls on the soccer field, you go and offer to help them up. That's a good example of sportsmanship that we try and push that in our programs. And of course, you got leadership. Just setting a good example for others, and you try and be a better teammate, and show everyone else on your team what it's like to be a leader on and off the field. And then we've got determination as a value there. Just being determined to learn a new skill, whether that might be a musical instrument in a classroom, or master a different lesson or class that you maybe isn't your strong point. You're determined to get better. And even just in the sports, you always keep running and trying your hardest, even if your team maybe isn't winning. So a lot of those values throughout our program, we try and have the coach capture those moments, or the learning moments, if you will, of, hey, if we see a scenario that happens, can the coach pick out that point and say, hey, Lucy, that was great sportsmanship. You helped your teammate up after they fell over, that type of thing. And in terms of the services that we do, try and push all of these values. Future Kids, we do a lot of summer camps, as well as our, of course, after school programs supporting sites and their needs. We have school sports festivals. We have one-off sort of PE type class days, sports days, you name it. And of course, we have a lot of our physical sports programs, but just the same, we've recently added our esports program. That's where we have a lot of different games that we would play, and we have professional esports coaches that deliver those programs. But we try and deliver the same values, and with the esports program, we do always try and incentivize the physical activity as well. Maybe one day they're playing an esports game with the esports coach, but we do try and remind them, hey, make sure you get out and play on Thursday, whether it's soccer, basketball, or what have you. We try and keep them physically active there as well. With our esports program, that's helped a lot with engaging a lot of our rural communities in Nebraska. We have programs out in Scotts Bluff right now that are doing esports programming with Future Kids, which it becomes a lot more difficult. We would struggle to go to Scotts Bluff every week right now and do a physical soccer program. So a good solution to that, and having touch point with our coaches still, is through the virtual esports programming. So yeah, that's pretty much Future Kids in a nutshell. And that's how we try and keep youth engaged in sports throughout the year, not just in the summer, or not just a few weeks out of the school year. We really try and make it a year-round program and get the kids active and moving as much as possible. So yeah, definitely, for anyone that did sign on to the webinar there, if you've got any questions now, I can happily answer them, or anyone that's watching the recording after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Graeme Eaglesham. I'll see if I can pass on my email address. I think it might even be on the flyer or what have you. But yeah, that's pretty much everything there. So I'll just start sharing my screen, and hopefully that was okay, Kim. And if anyone's got any questions at all, I'll happily do Q&A for as long as we need to.
Anybody have any questions about the program? It's really generous of you to start this program and build it and keep it going. We
Yep.
truly appreciate it. David's asking, how do you engage girls?
Oh, awesome. So I love that question. Now, you know, I guess these are things that came up over the years of doing this. You know, that the main, I would say, issue you have when I'll use soccer for an example, because that's my main sport. You know, when we're engaging girls, and we'll start elementary school level to begin with. You know, a lot of our programs are co-ed, and then we find that as the kind of years progress, you know, sometimes the girls do become a little bit disengaged when it's a lot of boys in the class. You know, again, sometimes the boys just maybe pass the ball between themselves, or they're a little bit, you know, maybe just rougher. Boys will bounce around a little bit, and sometimes the girls get a bit disencouraged with that. It's something we do see. So what's helped us, we do try and create some girls only classes. If there is enough, you know, girls interested at that specific school. We've had some good success with having girls specific classes. That's helped a lot. That was kind of our main way to help encourage girls, and you know, they just kind of thrived from there when you create that opportunity where, you know, it was a girls only class, or with that, even a girl dominated class. You know, if it was mostly girls in the class, it becomes less of an issue when maybe you have, you know, maybe 2 or 3 boys that want to join in as well, but there's mostly girls there. That environment tend to help a lot to keep them engaged, as opposed to 12, 13 boys with only a couple girls in the class. You know that over time it just tend to be, you know, not having them engaged as much, especially when it progressed into later stages of elementary school, into middle school. You know, so definitely when they get a bit older, if there is enough girls that want to be involved in the program, we try and have girls specific classes, which is way better to do that when it's elementary, so that there's just more girls that would be open to trying it, and then it's our job to have them enjoying it in that, you know, girls only environment. Is fantastic. Then they're more likely to keep going when they get into middle school, etc., etc. Sometimes, you know, sometimes when you get to middle school and we haven't, if it's a new school and it's a middle school that we're going to, and the girls haven't had that sporting experience for a few years, sometimes they're just less likely to want to engage in it, because maybe they, you know, have had a bad experience in the past. But we do have programs, especially in Omaha, we were based, you know, schools that we worked with almost from the beginning, that the girls were engaged in it. You know, they're getting a bit older now, 4 years later, and they're still playing. So we're really trying to make a conscious effort to get a lot of girls involved. So it's a good question. It's something we actively want to keep getting better at, for sure.
Are your programs, Graeme, elementary, middle, high school? Do you have programs across every level?
You know, we're heavy on the elementary school side of things. You know, we do in Omaha, we have a lot of middle schools, and then some in rural Nebraska. We do have a few middle schools here and there. We don't have too many high school programs. We certainly can. We can do high school programs. Pretty sure the last one we done was maybe in Lincoln. We had sort of a high school intramural type program. We certainly have the capabilities to do high school programs. It's just generally we're heavier on the elementary side of things, and you know, we do have quite a lot of middle schools. But we're definitely open. We even have micro soccer programs, you know, where we go to sort of daycare age programs. I know this might not be too relevant in the after school world, but you know, we do a lot of micro programs where it's 2 to 5 year olds. You know, we have a lot of soccer programs for even younger kids. So age isn't a factor. Oh, so that's a good question. What I would say, I'll kind of answer this in two ways because I'm looking at it in two different ways. I would say soccer is good if you get them young enough, in elementary school, a co-ed soccer program can be very beneficial and very productive for both boys and girls when they're competing. But in the back of your mind, we need to think, okay, eventually would like to separate that into a girls specific only program. And one of my favorite programs is tennis. Now, co-ed tennis is fantastic. Now, with tennis, it is an individual based sport, whereas soccer is a team sport, so you have to pass to teammates, and that creates an issue if the girls aren't being passed to, for example. That's an issue we see a lot. But tennis, when it's an individual based sport, that has had great success with being co-ed throughout the sort of lifespan of the program. Again, you would see the same benefits if you keep the girls and boys separate, I'm sure. We haven't had to do that as much with tennis. So tennis is one of my favorite programs, not just for that problem I've just spoke about, but just generally, there's kids that haven't played tennis, have never picked up a tennis racket in their life. But with our program, you teach the basics of tennis, and there's kids that, either hadn't played tennis before or maybe hadn't engaged in too many sports before, but they pick up tennis real quick, and there's certain games and activities that we can do that give them success. They feel they're being successful in tennis. It's not like it doesn't have to be, a Wimbledon style rally back and forth every round. It's more, these are different challenges and activities you can do within the tennis program. So I know I kind of answered that question two different ways, but tennis is one of my favorite programs. We've done tennis. I'd like to do more of tennis in rural Nebraska. The stage we're at, it seems to be soccer has just been our easiest program to implement at scale in rural Nebraska. I know out in Schuyler, they love tennis, and we've managed to add a lot of tennis programs to especially Schuyler Middle School. So it'd be definitely interesting to try and expand the tennis program just for those reasons that we just spoke about. But that's a brilliant question as well, David. So thanks for asking that. I like the Q&A portion a lot. I think we can get a lot more sort of detail and context into specific questions and thoughts that people have. So yeah, that's awesome, David.
Are there any more questions for Graeme? Future Kids is a great program, and the content is really relevant for our after-school students in summer. So we thank you for your work and your commitment to getting out into rural Nebraska and helping those programs to start tennis, whatever programs their students are interested in. So
yeah, and I mean, just when you mentioned summer there, Kim, it's summer's great, and we're in the middle of planning summer right now. There just tends to be a lot more flexibility, during summer for everyone, especially when we're talking more of our rural programs, and there's probably a lot of rural communities that haven't heard of Future Kids, or maybe didn't think it was an option. Summer's a great time to introduce a lot of those programs, because there's times where when it's an after school setting, there's a limited window of time that you can be at the physical location, and with that, comes staffing and comes the amount of youth that you can have participating. So when summer opens up a lot of opportunities, where sometimes we'll go to a rural location during summer school, and we can be there for 4 or 5 hours at a time, having different kids rotate through the program. Maybe sometimes in the morning a group's doing their academic side of things, but it's one group's turn to come and do soccer or tennis or physical education, and we're just that almost a station within their after school program, you know, and all the kids will rotate through our station. So we found that to be pretty effective during summertime for our rural partners. I think I saw another question pop up there.
One more question. Do you have a curriculum? Is there a cost?
Yep, we have here's the first part. We do have curriculums, curriculums for every one of our sports. You know, we tend to build on an 8-week program, an 8-week cycle for our after school partners, you know. So each week we'll kind of scaffold the learning and the program on what we learned the week before. You know, if that's tennis, you know, there's a certain, this week we're working on, you know, holding the racket properly. Next week it's forehand. Soccer, it might be this week's dribbling the soccer ball. Week 2 might be how to pass a soccer ball. You know, we'll sort of build out the skills from there. You know, that's our sports part of the curriculum, but then the next part of the curriculum is with the coaches teaching the values that's kind of bedded within, you know, both all the sports programs and the esports curriculum. That is almost, that's slightly a separate curriculum. The esports is real good. Esports has its own curriculum because we partner with, you know, a professional esports company called the United States Esports Academy. They are professional esports gamers that are, you know, coaches. So we use their curriculum and their programming. So yeah, we have curriculums for all of our programs, and the cost, you know, there is a cost, but it really just depends on certain variables. You know, the reason we started Future Kids was we don't want the cost to be the main factor for someone to be doing the program or not doing the program. But again, it comes down to individual situations. You know, how far away are you from Omaha, for example? Do we need to travel there? Is it an in-person program? Is it a virtual program? Is it, you know, is it a summer program? Is it an after-school program? But what I can tell you is, for a general budgeting perspective, if, say, like an Omaha program, for example, where we don't have to travel out of town, we put that right alongside a general program budget that we found people would be paying for a provider service. So say if someone wanted an 8-week program in Omaha, we're not traveling, and we do 8 sessions once a week, that becomes $70 for one session over the course of 8 weeks. An 8-week program, that's $560 for, you know, 15 to 20 kids taking part of the program, and they get one professional coach there each time, all the equipment. We just need the kids there and the space to do the activity. So just from a budgeting perspective, that's sort of where we start the conversation at, you know. And then, you know, if it's a rural program, we start to think about, okay, do you guys have a budget? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, this is the travel involved. You know, can we get our great partners that do help fund those sort of rural programs involved? So it's kind of a, you know, we kind of work backwards, if you will. You know, that, hey, where you at? You wanting programs? Okay, how do we work the steps backwards? And that's just the conversations we have with our partners, and always seems to end pretty well. You know, we really try and do our best to accommodate as many people as we can, and we just work from there. You know, so we have some schools that start with no budget, so we kind of, you know, we get them up and going through, you know, our general operating budget and from our programming budget from our, you know, generous partners, you know. And from there they tend to like the program, and over time they tend to find a little bit of funding to help put a bit of skin in the game as well, and it just kind of works well that way. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but I feel that's the best way to describe it.
Well, we know you are really good at finding partners and funding and working with different organizations to bring these opportunities to kids. So if folks are interested in learning more, they can get in touch with you and work with you to figure out a plan that's going to meet their students' needs and work in your organization's schedule.
Absolutely. And I just saw a little nice comment from Sandy there in the comments. So thanks a lot for that. Sandy. You know, I owe a big thank you to Sandy. She helped us set up a lot of our recent programs in Millard Public School District, you know, in Omaha. It's quite a large set of new schools that we have engaged in Omaha. So thanks a lot, Sandy, and thanks for those words. That's awesome.
Thanks, Sandy. We will post the recording for this webinar, and Graeme, if it's okay, we'll include your email address so people know how to get in touch with you.
Oh,
As part of the
absolutely.
recording. Okay.
Absolutely. And we'll be at the I'll be at the convention next week on Tuesday. So
Oh.
anyone else that's there, feel free to come, stop by. We'll have a table there and, you know, come and chop it up.
Meet you in person.
Yeah.
The Innovation Invitational next week in Lincoln at the UNL Innovation Campus. I think I have that right.
Yep.
So I'll look forward to checking in with you on Tuesday. But thank you for your session today, for all your work with our after school programs. We truly appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And our next session is March 16th, and we have Carrie Gottschalk with UNL Extension, who's going to talk about her 10 Minutes to Better Behavior program. So I don't think it involves soccer, but maybe there's some ways we can integrate your programs.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Graeme.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Graeme. Nice job.
Oh, thanks, Cam. Hopefully that went okay.
Yeah, it was perfect. I'll send you a link to the recording once
Awesome.
it's available, so you have that too. You can share it.
That's awesome. I'll share that with a few people
have,
as well.
Have fun in Kearney and have fun in North Platte.
Yep. Thanks, Cam.
Travel safe. Bye.
Yep. Bye. Bye.